Hey, before I kick off the podcast, I just want to shout out Next Door Clothing. Next Door, a clothing brand based out of Bondi in Sydney. They're making really nice jeans and shirts and hats. So go and check out their full range at nextdoorsydney.com. They're also artists, so you can go and check out a range of art. They put on rad parties, and I love what they're doing. So nextdoorsydney.com for the full range.
Yeah, it's a special part of the world, eh? Real,
it so is.
Real peaceful, real harmonic, almost. You know, like just. I think that the more nature there is, the more like potential for harmony there is. You know, and like humans with our thoughts, we just get a little bit carried away in our own worlds, and sometimes, not really creating harmony. Hey.
Not creating harmony. And you know what? Yeah. We are nature. We're part of nature. We forget we're part of nature. It's so weird.
Yeah. We forget, and I think also that perhaps we're like exposed to ideas that make it easy for us to forget type thing from a young age. Like, I think the education, like, hopefully in the future is a bit different, you know. We can integrate a little bit more just for our own, like, our own benefit, and the benefit of those around us. It's without the, like, we are nature, we come from nature, everything that is nature sustains us, but like you said, we've forgotten, you know, so
disconnected from it. Listen, let's get started.
Cool, bro. Let's do it. I didn't know if we were on for a second. I was like, oh no, but doesn't.
No, we're on.
We are on, bro. We were never off. That's it. Doesn't matter if it's just us. See, me and my friends, we love talking. Like,
so do I, man.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It is good. Yeah,
it's so important. I'm realizing it the older I get how important conversations, but also how important stories are. You know, just like our Aboriginal elders. I mean, that's how they passed on their local law, was through stories. And I think we can never have enough of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. My first podcast ever, but frothing, bro.
Dude, I got you, man. I got you.
I feel safe.
I feel safe too, man. I do. I feel safe too. I'm scared. I'm scared all the time.
Yeah,
here we go.
That's epic.
No, I'm not. Here we go. So this is for Clementine and Otis. Hey, listen, thanks for tuning in. Like, I'm so stoked. Like, I'm so grateful for your interest in the podcast. If you're new in this space, you can head over to terriblehappytalks.com and you can check out my full back catalogue of approximately 126 episodes. You'll find conversations with surfers, skateboarders, artists, activists, entrepreneurs, conservationists, educators. And I guess now that time goes on, I've realised that the underlying theme amongst all of my guests is that they're free thinkers who aren't afraid to question the status quo and live their truth. Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to when I really think about it. I often get asked the question, what's your podcast niche? And I struggle with that question. I don't know. Like, in my opinion, THT is a weekly variety show and I seek diversity. And yeah, maybe that's my niche. I don't even know. I want this show to be for everyone. So, as always, support the sponsors of the show because they support me. And yeah, you'll get discounts along the way. It's all on the website, so go and check it out.
Yeah, good to be here, man. Whoa. Good on purpose.
So there's a donut lights up.
3, 2, 1.
All right, let's do this. Today's guest is Lachie Rombouts. Lachie is by far the most stylish underground big wave charger in Australia. Aside from his poetic ability to navigate monster waves and barrels on giant surfboards, Lachie is a deep thinker, empathetic by nature, dedicated to living his truth, and someone who strives to spread positivity everywhere he goes. Today, Lachie is with me live from his home on the beautiful south coast of New South Wales, Australia, to share his experiences, challenges, and hopes for the future. Mr. Lachie Rombouts, welcome.
Yeah, Thanks, Shan. Thanks for having me, bro. Stoked to be here. Stoked to be having a chat, and stoked to share something. If it's worth sharing, if it's worth hearing. But yeah, I know that each individual journey matters to someone, and it's helped me a lot. People sharing their journey with me, so I'm frothing to be here.
Yeah, bro. Just for those that are unaware, can you describe where you are right now? Because I'm looking in the backdrop and I see gum trees and I hear cockatoos. So where are you sitting?
Yeah, I'm just sitting out the back, just past my back gate, on a reserve and in Manana, south coast. And it's a beautiful day. It's a gentle east nor'easter blowing. Birds are singing.
Yeah.
It's good to be alive.
Nice, man. Yeah, and like I was saying before we started, it's such a special place. And it's a very special place for me because I grew up on the south coast of New South Wales, and I think it's got a real spiritual aspect to it. It's the Aboriginal heritage in that area and the custodians of that land it's so profound and so strong down there. Do you ever feel that energy?
Yeah, definitely, bro. Like I started coming down here about 8 or 9 years ago, and straight away, like I suppose being a surfer, it's easiest to recognize those kinds of energies in the waves and in the rock formations, the sand beaches and stuff. And yeah, Bendy's got a pretty magical kind of underwater topography going on, and the whole area, like it's immersed in nature. There's minimal development, so it's really got a lot of its raw power, raw beauty still very much intact. And then I think each part of the coast is exposed to different energies, and I think that down here definitely exposed to a lot of energy and a lot of beautiful mountains and definitely a lot going on, bro. It's a beautiful place.
What originally drew you to that area? How did you end up there?
Most simply just the waves, absolutely perfect waves with not too many crew out, a little bit more raw, a little bit more space, and I love riding bigger surfboards and stuff, and so it's really appealing to just see big empty beach full of barrels and then there's like I said, this south coast gets exposed to a lot of good energies. It's got really really magical rock formations that allow for a lot of nice waves, and so once and just the peace of the place, like there's a lot of kangaroos around, a lot less development, a lot less nightlife and different things. And so I suppose at the time when I was ready to move here and everything, which was really big blessing, opportunity just with work and other things, that it kind of allowed, and I did push for it too, but just the peace of the place, it's just that general peace that comes with being surrounded by nature with a bit less going on, really allows you to kind of just harmonize with that a little bit and harmonize with yourself a little bit more than perhaps you might have had the time to up in Sydney. And it's good.
So you're originally from Sydney. Can you tell us about what the area was like comparatively to where you grew up to where you are now?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I grew up in Hornsby, a little town I suppose in the suburbs of Sydney, but when I grew up it was pretty quiet, and then it was a lovely place to grow up. I'm the youngest of 6, and that's a little property that my mum and dad could afford, and it was a little knockdown, and they renovated it and made the best with what they had, and we were super lucky to grow up there. I think our house has got the most trees on the street still and stuff like that, and that's been a family home now for almost 30 years, not quite, but and so it's been and now I've got 14 nieces and nephews and stuff, so we've still got strong ties to the city and to Hornsby and to my family up there, but yeah, it's like 40 minutes away, 40 minutes away from the nearest beach by car, and then so that would leave me just to be able to go to the beach on the weekends and school holidays and that when I was younger. Developed a strong love for the ocean. Just my dad's own love for the ocean, and my brothers and my whole family. My mum loves the beach, and so the love for the ocean and the beach was there. And then as I started to fall more and more in love with it, then I would start spending more and more time on public transport, and in some ways solidifying that love for the beach, and also just that. I suppose you have low standards coming from Hornsby. Once you've made the journey out to the beach, you're not too worried about what's going on or anything. If you've got a one turn section on a wave, then that's all you could ask for, and anything else is a bonus. But so I'd always be out there in some pretty horrid conditions and having a good time and getting wet, and so I think that's something that will stay with me for the rest of my life, is just the appreciation to be near the water and at the beach. So I'm grateful for that.
Like, where was your go-to surf spot from there, from Hornsby?
And that's enough. Yeah. So there was a go-to. Most of the time it was Mona Vale. That's like the closest beach, and so we would trek down there as a family. And then, but the beautiful thing about coming from Hornsby to go to the beach was there was no local, and so depending on the waves and the conditions, it kind of taught me to hunt for waves a little bit more. And like, admittedly, I'm probably not, I'm not pioneering out every weekend looking for new waves and everything like that, but it did I like that it taught me not to be heavily localized on one spot, because it really does broaden your horizons to magical waves. Like for me, going to Avalon or going to Manly is the same distance, whereas if you live in Avalon, then you kind of don't think about going to Manly. So it's like that's just an example. Like Manly, you got like Ferry Bower, one of Dad's favorite waves, and Winky and Deddies and stuff. And so that was awesome, being exposed to a bunch of different waves on Sydney's northern beaches, and in a funny roundabout way, it's humbling not being a local anywhere, and I like that because the truth is even though we are all born in places, and definitely some people are taking care of a place better than others, or managing a space better, is their space to manage in some respects. But I also think that the concept of ownership, it's a bit far-fetched, as more relevant about how we share things and how everyone can benefit from something, as opposed to locking things down and keeping people out and stuff like that, so it's a good life lessons just for me to grow up with, is just that we're basically all our visitors, and so it's good to be sharing it around.
Yeah, I mean, how did you combat that as a Grommy, turning up to places where you weren't a local? Do you feel like it built resilience in you?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, to be honest, bro, like the localism thing was it never really was a deal to me, because I didn't actually have a great deal of it was funny, there was times, there was snippets in when I was a grommet where perhaps it was a big deal to be local or not, or to be kind of hip with the latest surf stars. And because I had friends when I was learning to surf, I had my best buddies now, but at the time, kind of just like the cool beachgoers who lived in the town, and I was from Hornsby, they were already sponsored, so, and I was kind of just learning the ins and outs of surfing. And so I never really struggled with there was never too much. I don't think I was around the beach enough to get hassled by locals, So so it wasn't even like a real deal for me. I'm sure if I was given another situation, another circumstance, if I was there a bit more, maybe I would have rubbed some feathers up the wrong way, or maybe I would have come into a pack of groms showing me how it is. But that never really took place. So I just kind of always run my own show.
Sick, man. Yeah, so you find that whole concept of actually not being local kind of served you in a little way in terms of just being separate to that kind of political bullshit?
Yeah, I reckon that's fair, bro.
You reckon that's fair?
Yeah.
Nice. I just want to talk about something. Like, I came across a really funny article online by a surf journalist and former guest on this show, actually, Jed Smith. And he wrote an article in Tracks magazine, and it was titled, "I owe Lachie Rombouts an apology."
Yeah.
Can you tell us the backstory behind that article? Because it's classic.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, what's funny about Jed's article is how something can mean more to someone than to someone else. And so I went up for Cyclone Omar with a couple of buddies, drove up the coast, and that was super epic. It was supposed to be a monster swell, and it ended up being solid, and it was sick. And there were some places that were pretty monster, but maybe a bit too much current to paddle and stuff like that. So I was surfing Kira and Snapper, and mostly at Kira, and I love riding big boards. And so with the crew up there, it's like, I had a couple waves at Snapper and just realised it was pretty much completely unreasonable for me to be surfing up there on like my 9 foot, 4.5 inch thick gunfish, I call it. And so I cruised down the beach, down to Kira, and there was heaps of space down there and really nice waves. And and so I had already, like, I've had some incidences in my life where I've made the wrong choice and I've prioritized my own surfing, or I've been so stuck in my head that I've not been able to acknowledge the whole lineup, you know, and everyone out there, and as a result dropped in on someone, and then we all make mistakes and stuff. But anyway, with this amount of crowd, I was always mindful that the crowd's going to be an issue, and I was. But before, like, as I was up there, there's just like in my mind, like, I'm happy to risk it for the biscuit, but I would never. But I knew up there that the last thing I would want is to hurt someone, and then ruin my vibe, you know, ruin the vibe of a good trip, and ruin a beautiful carefree surf trip with potentially hurting someone. To me, is my worst nightmare, and so. So when that happened and I was riding that wave, all I saw was, I just saw human in my line. I looked at it and I was like, there's no chance I'm getting around him. There's no chance I'm going to go for it and cut him in half, or potentially not cut him in half. I was just not worried, you know. I'd had so many good waves already, and so in that moment, I just saw him and I was just like, whoop, I'm out of there. I'm straightening out and I'm running around, you know. It's not and I didn't even think twice about it, you know. And then I saw the article, and that's cool, eh? It's nice. It's good. Just like it was a funny article, and perhaps he only wrote that just because. Like the other, like he said, the keyboard warriors, like he was just backing me up. He's just been a brother, eh?
That's so sick. I know, because he was feeling bad that he felt like he was in your way, and you know, and this happens in the surf, you know. So
yeah.
And I guess that's a question I want to ask you. Like, when you do approach a busy lineup, are you approaching it from a place of kindness or a place of aggression?
Definitely, like trying to approach it from a place of like equality. You're trying to, like, you just trying to vibe it out. Like I said, I'm 29 now. Took me a long time to grow up for a lot of reasons, but it's easy to get stuck in your own head. Easy to get stuck playing your own game and forgetting that everyone else's game to them is just as important, your game to you, and being mindful of that is actually going to, in the long run, come up with the greatest result for you too, you know, and everyone else. So it's like, yeah, when the lineup's busy, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not taking away from the lineup. I'm adding to it, you know, like throwing out, like, people are really receptive if you're encouraging people and you're revving people up and you're having fun yourself, generally you can always bring a lineup up rather than subtract from it. You can add to it, and even if it means that you got to freaking sit there and wait a long time, at least that way you're not bringing it down, and generally that's when the greatest things happen too. So yeah, when it's busy and that you lower me personally, I lower my expectations to suit the environment, and then I try to acknowledge, and so that, so it's good.
And my friend once said, and it's not like original, but he said, be the change you want to see in the lineup. It's just
that's
like
epic.
good. It's like good call. Like
Dude.
it's kind of a play on that whole, like be the change you want to see in the world, but be the change you want to see in the lineup. I just sort of love that.
That's epic.
And it does make a difference. Now listen, so you grew up in basically an inland suburb, and you had to travel to the beach. How would you describe your school days where you grew up? Was school something that you were interested in?
School days were cool. I really liked the school that I went to. My mum taught at my school. She was like an admin staff event coordinator and stuff at school, and all my brothers and sisters went to my school, and so I had a great relationship with all the students in my school. Because I'm the youngest of 6, and so all my brothers and sisters 2 years apart. So it was kind of like an O'Doyle Rules vibe. It was pretty funny where the Rombouts were just in every year. Anyway, so I like school, bro. I like school up until probably, like year 10, year 11. I wasn't really sure that I wanted to go into university or do things. I mean, when I started getting barreled, school definitely started losing its appeal, just in the sense of ways to spend your time and enjoyment and stuff like that. I suppose, it's interesting at a young age. Maybe I did feel like there was something missing from school a bit, something that maybe like certain depths of life that were not being addressed, but overall I had a pretty good time. I definitely enjoyed skipping school in year 11 and 12 to go surfing.
Are you a good student?
I was good in the I wasn't overly academic. Like I by the end of year 12 I was happy to pass my HSC. I didn't strive to get any better results than that. I was happy to not study and to pass, and then and I didn't really put I don't know, it was interesting. I suppose that my motivation for learning, I feel that a lot of things that would have been really good to learn at a younger age did not even appeal to me at a younger age, and things like physics and things like chemistry, things that couldn't be more relevant in day-to-day life at that moment did not seem relevant to me, and so I feel like I didn't get the most out of school, but at the same time I still had a great experience. Like for me, school was more about relationships with friends and teachers and things like that, and other kids. Like I like the social aspects of school.
Have developing relationships with people always been high on your priority list?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I think.
Why?
I think by default, almost. Like I'm the youngest of 6, and so I had 5 older brothers and sisters that would carry me around and make me walk early, and then I had relationships with all my older brothers and sisters' friends that I felt comfortable with because they were my brothers and sisters' friends. And so I think sometimes by default you are, by default you're either more likely to, your disposition just changes in certain environments. And I had a very social upbringing. And so, yeah, I'm definitely very relational.
So, being the youngest of 6, did you feel protected by your siblings, or did you feel like you had to prove yourself a lot?
Probably definitely surfing, probably a good combination of both. I remember one time when I was 10 years old and DY Point was massive, like what we were calling 10 foot at the time. And I was shitting myself, but my family, my dad and my 2 older brothers were going out. And so it was just like, yep, I'm on the bodyboard. I'm going out with them, you know, like, and
At 10.
Yeah, at 10. Yeah. And then like, yeah. And I didn't catch any waves that day. I actually remember getting one on the head that just like, that really felt like a giant was just squashing my lungs, you know, and that was like these 2 sets, and that was a wild experience. But then the rest of the time I'm pretty much just floating in the channel safe, just frothing to be a part of it, you know. But I suppose, like you said, you know, like it is. Like my dad used to drag me out on the bodyboard when I was a mega grommet. I don't know, like 2 or 3 foot, 4 foot, but you're crying, going, "No, Dad, don't, no, Dad's too scary. I don't want to be out of here," you know. And Dad's going, "It's fine, you got it," you know. And so, and then I think that with the brothers, like it is the I think it's easier to slip into something when more people are doing it. And so for me, it was a good environment to have my older brothers and my dad having a go, help, I suppose, me have a go a bit. Like it definitely would have fast tracked certain like, you know, habits and stuff, like in the sense of just, I suppose, exposure to large surf was definitely something that I was like that relatively familiar with, you know.
So you got to feel that power and energy from a young age and become comfortable with it?
Relatively comfortable. I mean, east coast of Australia, you get like northern beaches, I don't know, you probably get a couple of big swells a year, and because at that stage, maybe a few if you're lucky, and then so it was definitely like my childhood is infrequent. But then it was like that was the first memory. Then the second memory is like kind of like getting my first barrel at Little Avalon, which is a reef break that really like nurtured me into barrel riding, because nice soft cungy bottoms and it was a approachable wave, and then kind of got a ramp entry where you paddle real hard at the ramp and then it'll stand up behind you, and so that so that was cool. And then and then Dead Man's when I was 16, I got a nice wave. I was hanging out with a really nice, fearless bodyboarder, Wes Fisher, and he was a legend, and I kind of got a little bit of mentoring from him. And then when I was 18, bro, that's when it all really clicked for me. After I finished school, I went to Chile on a mission trip with Misfit Aid, and I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and the airfares were donated as part of the deal for tourism scheme, trying to boost the tourism scheme. And so we were able to change our tickets and stay there for like 2.5 months in the end. And then so during that 2.5 months, it would have got about 5 solid 10-foot plus swells, finishing the first day. So it's funny, like I say it was 10 foot that day at DY Point, maybe it was 8. It doesn't, like, size is not overly relevant, but that day when I rocked up to Chile, they were the biggest waves I'd ever surfed. And the day when I left Chile, it was probably double the size. And then again, the biggest waves I've ever surfed, easily, like, obviously by 2 then. And that was, so I came back after doing, and I was scared beyond belief, bro. Like that was a crazy experience, but I really feel like I had to do it. I had to make the most of it. So, Ramon Navarro had lent me a board, and so that was really special and sick. And I developed like a bit of a relationship with him, and just like real casual. To be fair, it was somebody that I was hanging out with, was good friends with him, but he just seen me surfing enough times to be like, yeah, if you want a board, you can have a board. You know, like you want to have a go, like I'll give you a go, like. And so. And that was really cool. That solidified. Just when I came back to Australia after that trip, I was just like, it's like how can you ignore what you've been through, and how can you be scared of like these East Coast waves when you've just looked at mountains type thing? And don't get me wrong, they're still heaps scary, and it's just like it's all relative. And just because you do something once doesn't mean you can, like, you're gonna nail it the next time. But it's like it definitely is like an element of conditioning that time in Chile, that when I came back, I came back with a new mindset of just, I'm going to have a go and I'm going to rip in and I'm going to see what I can do over here, you know, type thing.
What were some like personality traits or qualities that you noticed about someone like Ramon Navarro? I mean, he's known to be a fearless charger, and some of the waves that guy's caught over the years. What was he like as a person?
Yeah, he's cool. Pretty laid back, like real sure of himself. He was cool. He was real generous. Ramon. I'm lucky enough to have friends that know Ramon and his family, and then like Ramon's just a legend. I don't think many people have got bad things to say about Ramon. He really is a legend. He's bringing the whole community up. He's for the people, hey. And so he's a pretty special guy. Like, I definitely super grateful that our paths intertwined. It is special. Like the first 20-foot wave I ever rode, I was with it on his board with him on the shoulder. He went on the shoulder because he didn't know I'd go, and so we rode that wave together, and that was sick, you know. But definitely lovely dude, hey. Did
you surf that place? Was it Punta de la Lobos?
Yeah,
or
that's
something?
the one.
Is that what it's called?
Punta de Lobos.
Did you surf there?
Yeah, Point of Wolves.
Is that what it's called? Is that what it means?
Yeah.
There you go, man. Like, so did you feel like you learnt something from Ramon aside from like the waves? You know, that trip in general. What did you learn from him? Like, just, humility?
Yeah, I mean, like, Ramon and I had minimal. We did, like, I would see him surf, but we didn't talk a whole lot. It was only a couple days before I revved that up a bit. I might have seen it like we were Cheech and Chong for a moment, but it was just that I'd see him surfing all the time, and then like. Yeah. To me, just being able to lend his board and stuff is like, oh, what a legend. But he was definitely, he's just humble, sure of himself. He had the right game plan, good equipment. Like he's definitely a bit of an old bull, like in the sense of you can learn a lot from someone like that, you know. And to the point where I was so new to that game that I wouldn't have even been able to acknowledge what I was seeing, you know, like, so like to me at that point, when I put that 9.7 under my arm, I was like in disbelief. I was like, whoa, this thing is a weapon, you know, like at that point, I don't think I'd actually had a board that big under my arm. And so I'd had long boards under my arm that were similar size, but yeah, the gun had kind of a different sort of magnitude to it. And then,
like more narrow, thinner rails.
Yeah,
those sort of feelings.
Yeah, it was, and it was also kind of like real old school Dick Brewer, pretty chunky rails, like not as refined. It was like because it was it's like Ramon's old gun, you know, and so it wasn't like Ramon's new board. It was like his old board, so it was more like it was like pretty cool OG, like chunky. Yeah, Dick Brewer is like kind of like the easiest way to describe it. Like these really nice thick rails, like definitely just like a point and shooter. Not so much what I ride now, like not as refined and everything. But those waves were really like that day they were actually quite steep too. But there were a lot of big burgers as well. Like and so it was pretty ideal to have that kind of board. There was some waves, you know, like would be amazing to go back a bit more equipped with the right boards and everything. Like now I ride a board bigger than that consistently in much smaller surf, and I don't think twice about it. But
why? Do you mind if I ask why?
Yeah. Well, part of the reason is that I used to ride a 12-foot longboard a lot, and so after that trip in Chile, I came back home, and then like, you know, like obviously a whole bunch of stuff in between, and then I snapped my friend's longboard. That was a 12-foot prone paddleboard designed to paddle the Molokai on, and it was at least 4 inches thick, and the volume of the thing. So I snapped that after I was having so much fun on it, like got a few waves, and I snapped it, and then I was like absolutely devastated because I just snapped my friend's board and it was going to cost me a lot of money. But then when I fixed that board and ordered him a new one and all the rest of it, and I started riding that board a lot, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the feelings that you get and just the uniqueness of the feeling. It's like it's real like gliding, and you actually have to surf it a different way than you would obviously. So it then helps you to explore your own body and your own body shapes, and you're kind of like this new way that you have to surf this longboard so that you're not nosediving became really useful to help knife guns and stuff like that, like these skills. And so I spent about like I'd take this board to the beach and I'd just play in ecstasy for hours and hours and hours, and it was like when I was like, you know, there's like anything going on in my mind would be silenced by the joy that I would have surfing on that board in the summer on at the beaches and stuff like that. So what happened was I was just conditioned to foam. Like, I don't know how many liters that thing is, but it's more liters than I've got a 12-foot gun now, and that 12-foot longboard's still the biggest literage board I have. And after riding that board for 4 or 5 years and learning to throw it around a bit and stuff like that, I was like, well, and then that's what happened. When I started getting tubed, I was like, I need to get myself a big gun, because if I can do it in small waves on this big board, then I could probably do it in a big wave on a board with nice rails, you know. So
Because I think my immediate reaction is, oh, well, maybe he likes those boards better because it lets you chip into waves earlier, maybe get into a better position for the barrel, things like that. But then I watched some footage of you literally surfing slabs on it, and like you said, just like knifing in on it. And I'm just like, that looks really hard. Like, it doesn't look like it's making life any easier at all.
Yeah,
you know?
I think, but no, like what you said is completely accurate though. You like, regardless of what it looks like, for me personally, like, because I have ridden a lot of shorter boards, and I actually had a knee injury. I had a knee injury that left me that and it was like my MCL, the inside ligament of my knee that on my front leg that snapped off at first it tore badly, and then it snapped off the bone, and then so when that happened, airdropping was no longer an option. I was in Indonesia surfing with a knee brace on at Super Suck, and then I took this big drop and it buckled out my knee brace. It didn't break my knee though, and I was on a 6'2", like, nice short board that I could airdrop on, could barrel ride on, could have heaps of fun on. But then once I did this airdrop again on my backhand, like, I'd hurt my knee on my forehand twice, but this was a backhand drop, and then it buckled my knee brace out, and I kind of knew if I have one more bad drop like that, I'm not going to be surfing for months. So I paddled in with my broken knee brace, and I went and got my 6'9" Simon Anderson, this really beautiful gun that I was loving at the time, and at that time that was the biggest gun I had. And I went out and I just started knifing these epic barrels, no airdrops, no worries, and punching deeper sections than I normally would. And so I was like, well, this really works for me. And it was safe, you know, like, safe for my knee, and it was and it was smooth too. I like just the connectedness, that the bigger the board and the more connection with the wave. I really like those feelings. I've been able to draw those lines, and it felt good.
So listen, like, when you graduated high school, did you have the dream of, like, chasing a surf career? Was that on the cards, or what was that first year out of high school like for you?
Not so much. At that first year out of high school, my dreams more just involved around travel, you know, like just traveling, getting to see the world, doing a bit of work, trying to you know, like, stand on my own 2 feet and do some work and that. After I came back from Chile, I was like, shit, I reckon I could do this, you know, like, because there was a big wave comp on there, the invitational and that. And anyway, I was just surfing the waves and having a good time. And I was like, and I suppose I'm quite a competent swimmer. When I was younger, I did a bit of swimming training and was pretty involved in swimming for like from the age of 14 to 15. And so that gave me a lot of confidence, I suppose, in the water. And then I was like, ooh, this, like, I after that time in Chile, I did start to think about that a lot. Like, ooh, do I want to be a big wave surfer? Do I want to pursue that as something that I'd like to do for fun for the rest of my life, or even potentially as a career. But I don't think I was ever too set on I've always been pretty open to just seeing where the wind takes me, type thing.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, I have been. And then after that time in Chile, what happened was, like, it's good. It goes into a bit relevant topic, is so after the time in Chile, I saw my own possibilities and my own potentials. And I'd really, like, I think there's definitely something to be said about how you do something and where you're at. And I think to be honest, I was actually quite unrealistic with my own abilities when I first got that taste. I think that the universe. What
do you mean unrealistic?
Well, I'll go. So it's like So I reckon that when in the surfing game anyway, from my experiences, what I see, because I love trying to encourage people to get barreled and I'll try to get in someone's ear and I'll give them like the barrel talk, It's like, all you need to do is believe and hold your line, get into it and hold, like, if you can believe, get into it and hold your line, then you could get the wave of your life, and when somebody's ready for that chat, like if we're just chatting and someone's, I really want to get barreled, I'll be like, do you really want to get barreled? I'll be like, if you really want to get barreled, then stay low, put all your weight on the front of your board to minimize friction, get up slowly and make sure you're minimizing friction with the water, and then hold your line, and go like you gotta believe, and
when you say stay low, sorry to cut you off, when you say stay low, like in a squatted position, knees like really bent.
I mean,
just lowering center of gravity, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's for me personally. For me, it's like it's about connection with the inside rail. It's connection with your board and the wave. And the more the lower you are, it's kind of like for me, like a visualization is like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Like you've got more center of gravity and better balance when you're low, and I also think that you've got more connection with your inside rail when you're low, and potentially even more adaptability, more springiness type thing, and so
like suspension.
And then so like, yeah, once you can get into that wave, and then you can, if you're holding a line and you stay low, you're going to have better balance. And I've watched time and time again, I wouldn't know how many, but I would assume like maybe 20 or 30 people like have, or maybe that's a bit overestimated, maybe not, but have got their wave of their life. And I've been that proud to see them just like, and barreled off their absolute head. And some people really like given up surfing for 5 years, started surfing a few times, and then I give them the speech, and then next minute they're locking into wave of the day, and you're just like, yes. And
so you coach them. You coach them into it.
I help them believe. I believe in them. I believe anyone can hold a line, can get the wave of their life, And so I feel like them believing that is obviously the missing link for it happening. It's like, if
why do you care so much?
Just why not? There's not a whole lot. There's not a whole, like, I don't know. Like easiest way to describe, like, just because it brings them joy, brings me joy, mirror neurons from seeing them happy, perhaps.
Right, so you like it really, when you see someone happy, it makes you happy.
Yeah, definitely.
So, dude, that's a little bit unique. There's a lot of people who would be like, hey, that's a barrel I could have had. Why am I letting that guy have that barrel or girl?
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I suppose
It's really nice.
I suppose I'm lucky to have such good family, good parents that gave me a lot of love, you know, and genuine love. And I think that definitely helps to share the love. Hey, if somebody shared the love with you, perhaps they've modeled how to share it better to others, you know. So maybe my parents did a good job, a really good job.
You think it's from your upbringing, hey?
Yeah.
Those values were instilled in you by your parents?
Yep, definitely. Hey, parents, family, the environment is good. But I think, just going on that too, like, I think it's funny how maybe it's, like with all the older brothers and sisters and they had a lot of love for me, like definitely I didn't feel it was too much like competitiveness between me and my brothers and sisters. And so, I do think I received a lot of love as a kid and growing up, and that's why I'm happy to share it because it did bring me a lot of joy, and so it's good to share it around.
I noticed, like, just listening to you even then sort of briefly talk about barrel riding and the analytics of it, you know, breaking it down. Have you always been an analytical person by nature?
Yeah, I think it's something that I'm like, I think it's definitely something that's growing within me. And like, I had been surfing for quite a while now. And like, I suppose when I was younger, I wouldn't always be able to connect the dots myself. But as I've gotten older and as people have helped me connect the dots, then I realize that there are always dots to be connected type thing. And so, like, in the sense of, like, it doesn't matter what you're doing as much as how you're doing it. And then with the how comes the understanding, you know? So like the technique, like I feel like there's a technique in everything and there's an art to everything. It's just like a matter of honing in on that and getting really, like, you know, like consciously aware of the whole process is gonna just make it a better outcome for you or someone else if you can.
Would you say you're someone who's always been driven by progression? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair, bro. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, definitely had a lot of big dreams, a lot of big dreams. I suppose I've been lucky, you know, like we talked yesterday on the phone, you know. I think we both grew up in the church, and there's a lot of pros and cons that come with conventional religion. But for me, one of the pros was I always thought big, you know, like when you're thinking about God and you're thinking about love and you're thinking about Jesus healing people and stuff like that, it gets you thinking big. And so in that way, like, I've always, if I see someone else doing it, I mean, yeah, just by default, the nature of what Jesus always said that for those that believe, they'll do greater things than I. So if I see, so now, and I learn that, and I'm conditioned with that, and with all the other stuff that would come with that. But when I see someone surf a 50-foot barrel at Jaws, you know, Shane Dorian or something, I'm not looking at that going, oh wow, if only to be Shane Dorian. I'm looking at that going, wow, he's showing me how to do that, you know, like, and if I can hone in on what this brother's, how he's doing that, then I can do that too, you know. And if I can have a greater understanding or a greater depth of something, then it's possible that I could even do that better than he was doing that, you know. And so it I suppose from a young age I've always thought big in that respect, you know, of just.
And you think that's because of your, like, religious upbringing?
Yeah, I reckon that would be fair to say, bro. My religious upbringing meant a lot to me when I was growing up, and it was very real for me. So it did have a massive impact on the way that I treated myself and the way that I view the world and the way that I treat others, and so. Yeah, that would be one of the major factors, I reckon.
So positive experience overall, yeah?
Definitely.
Yeah, continues to be.
Overall, bro. Overall, yeah. I mean, hindsight's a beautiful thing, bro. I would have told you, like, catch me, like the highs and lows. You know, like the highs and lows. When you're low, it's not as fun and it's not as easy. Like, it's not as easy to understand where you're going when you're somewhere that's, you know, potentially dark and confusing, even if that is very much self-inflicted. The pain of like shame or guilt, or the pain of not being able to, like, I'm thinking big, but if I'm not living big, then there would be this, like, you know, I think they call it cognitive dissonance, where you're imagining a world but you're not living it. And so there's this in between space, which is like, and perhaps it is stumbling around in the darkness, in the sense that you don't know how to get to where you want to go, or you don't have the mental discipline or the mental strength to get to where you need to go, and you do know how to get there. So whether you don't know how to get there, I think that can sometimes be not even as bad as knowing how to get there, but not having the strength to get there. You know, for me, that was when I came back from Chile and I had these big wave goals and all this, and I went to move to Avalon, and I made so many good friends and such a beautiful community, and I wouldn't take back any like, you know, and that's a beautiful thing about hindsight, especially if you're comfortable and you're at peace with where you're sitting. Well, then, of course, you're not going to take back anything that put you there, because you're at peace now. But getting to that place through the hard times, and like I said, like often a lot of self-induced hard times, you know, come from this mental framework that we kind of born into, depending on who you are and where you are and whatever's going on in your life. Like, I definitely think that we adopt like a bit of the societal conditioning's mental framework. And so, yeah, you can get a bit like, you can get a bit lost in that mental framework. If it doesn't resonate with your heart, or it doesn't resonate with, you know, your deeper self, then it's like, life can get a bit confusing, eh?
Do you have like a higher power, or do you follow a religious denomination? Are you okay with that question?
Yeah, I'm fine with any question there, bro. Higher power. I still believe in God. I still believe in Jesus. I believe in most of all, I believe in love and energy. And I think that Jesus, and I feel like the Bible was like an analogy, you know? More importantly, like, you know, then, like, for me personally, more importantly, like what, you know, you were talking about stories, you know, and how the Aboriginal culture used to pass down stories, and how those stories ruled the land. And I feel like the Christian story really had the potential to set a lot of people free, and to encourage humans to live in union and in a father son, father daughter, whatever, mother, father. But the point is that it's a creator, invisible, relating to a creation, which I'm a part of. And it's like, and that message is really powerful, you know, to be able to understand that you're a part of something unseen, but also all the seen things, and acknowledging that you are not the creator of all things, but that you are potentially a part of all things, you know, and that, or not even potentially, but we are a part of all that is. And so it's like, it's super empowering, you know, it's super empowering. And then at the same time, like we talked about, if you're not willing to build a better life for yourself, or to listen to your heart and to try to make your heart happy, you know, and satisfy those deeper urges of what it means to be you and a human. Like for me, after surfing those waves in Chile, there's a part of me that can only be satisfied by surfing big, scary waves, because I felt things in that ocean that made me feel more alive than I've ever felt in my life. And it made me have more reverence and respect and love for the universe than I've ever felt. And it's just like a natural phenomenon when you expose yourself to certain situations. It's you exposing yourself to certain energies, and those energies are going to make you feel a certain way. And I think that's how people get hooked on good or bad things. They're exposing themselves to certain things, and they either like it or they don't, and then they're either getting hooked on it or they're not. And it's good. So
interesting, man. I love that. And I'm really with you there. I agree with everything you're saying. Just in terms of getting conscious on a daily basis, do you have a morning routine or a practice that you adhere to every day to get you centered and get you in tune?
Yeah, bro. Pretty the thing I'm most staunch on, and the thing that's been my real rock for me is the cold showers and even or cold swims. Yeah, and for me that's a real baptism of energy. You know, the cold. What happens when you do that? All the blood goes from your fingers and your feet into your organs and into your heart, and by it is a heart opening process, because the blood goes into your heart and it comes back out, and the stagnancy is shifted, you know, and so it's a really, so that, yeah, that to me is a really powerful something that I probably hold on to more than anything else, but I do try to make a habit of meditating as often as possible. I'd love to say I do it daily, but there's definitely been times in my life where I do it daily and when I don't. But meditating would probably be the meditating really is the key to life, you know, because through that space and through that connection to yourself, and just through that ability to sit and be still, you're allowing things to be, and you're harmonizing with your own body and your own system, and through that you're harmonizing with life, really, you know, and you're harmonizing with all that's around you, and you're harmonizing with your thoughts, and so that's definitely something that I love doing, and you know, I did this morning. I do that as often as possible, and it's only just been, if you know, maybe one day when we'll have another chat, you know, I can tell you how I've been meditating every day, and that would be epic.
Well, what is it? Okay, so you know, cold water, breathing, meditating. What does it do for your mind? Give us a description. Is it calming the mind? Is it balancing out your emotions?
Yeah, bro.
Is it balancing out your hormones, or is it all those things?
Yeah, I think it's all those things. Definitely all those things, bro. It's quietening. For me, it's quietening and it's stilling, you know, and through meditation. I have a really good friend and mentor. His name's Nick Laidlaw, and when I was younger, he took me on a meditation and movement retreat, and we'd be getting lots of good food into us, and we'd be moving in really, really interesting ways that I'd never moved my body before, and so that was really cool, because it's stimulating and it's stimulating and it's nourishing, and because our bodies, what I've learnt about the mind and the body and stuff is everything needs to be flowing, you know, that I see somebody every now and then when I've got a sore shoulder or something going on, and the Eastern medicine refer to as chi stagnation, and so I think that perhaps in the morning as you're sleeping, things might settle down, and some, all your body's working to bring you back into some sort of equilibrium in the morning. But as a result, your cortisol levels are high in the morning, which is a stress chemical, and you're inflamed from the toxins that you've been processing through the night. You know, unfortunately, we do live in quite a toxic society, and so you'd be doing really well to not be processing any at all. But then even then, there's still the stagnancy of the blood. Just you're in a bed, you're lying down. There's nothing ever stagnant. I mean, nothing. Like the human body is amazing, but probably that increased just that when you're stationary, and so just to fire up the system, get everything moving. I feel like and then de-inflame the system, remove some of those perhaps suboptimal chemicals, and then just stilling the mind, like something that I also really hold on to. And often it just goes hand in hand with my cold therapy, whether it's a cold shower or a cold swim or something. And that's just saying thank you to be alive, and thank you to have a new day and to have a go. And the more I can be grateful for my life, the more I can enjoy my life. Hey.
Yeah, man. I forget the science of the cold showers. I've been doing it for years myself, and I forget the science, but I do. You just reminded me that the whole concept of like when you do go into cold water, your body goes into survival mode, and its automatic reaction is to send blood to the vital organs. And then I've also heard when you combine that with like if you go hot, cold. It's like this flushing of the cells. It's detoxifying. And I don't know the exact science. I forget it. But I do know when I do that regularly, my health and my immune system is so much stronger. I'm very resilient. I rarely get ill. Combine that with good food, nutritious, nutrient-dense fruit and vegetables. You just feel bulletproof, It's just amazing. It
is amazing.
But for me personally, like I have to do those things on a daily basis because it really manages. It helps me to manage my emotional and my mind set. So,
100,
and I'm able to. It actually helps more with rational thought. Helps me with decision making, and less prone to bouts of maybe depression or anxiety. Would you say that has the same impact for you?
100, bro. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
is depression something you've had to battle with over the years?
Yeah, bro. Definitely. Like the negative side of like dreaming big and thinking all things are possible for God is that shame or guilt that comes with not being the light of the world, or not loving your brother and sister as much, or not, trying to like it's interesting like how we can put a lot of expectation on ourselves, I suppose, and I suppose once we realize what we're capable of, then it's like, oh shit, then like for me, I know once I was like, oh, I'm capable of doing this, I was like, well, I should do this, and then it's like and then it's like you almost can gain a resentment for not doing something that that you should be, and like
against yourself.
Yeah. So like a real life example is just like I'm hanging out in Avalon with my buddies. The east coast of Australia rarely gets anything over 12 foot, like 15 foot, or at least certain parts, but it rarely gets over 15 foot, so as a new aspiring big wave surfer coming from Chile, and I wasn't locked onto these goals or anything, but they meant a lot to me, it meant a lot to me to feel those feelings, because to me life is a wonderful place, and there is like crazy things to be experienced, and so take that to a regular situation when you're hanging out with people that potentially don't share the same dreams and visions as you, and then accordingly they don't need the same physical conditioning as you to achieve your dreams and visions, and then so it becomes like are you going to do what everyone else is doing, or are you going to try and walk your own path and do something that's a bit different to what everyone else is, so that you can have a different outcome to everyone else, and so to me, when I wasn't doing any training and I wasn't, living the life of an aspiring big weight, like this is an example, but it's real for me. Like when I was younger, this is the main thing. Like the truth is that I didn't have the mental strength or the willpower to make the right decisions that would take me closer to my goals and dreams. Rather, I was being kind of, passively and with a lot of laughs and a lot of fun and a lot of smiles and a lot of good times and a lot of fun memories, I was being passively pulled away from this dream of real wildness, real danger, real uncertainty, and it was just like I didn't have a whole lot of money in my bank account and
what do you mean? So what do you mean by getting pulled away? Like pulled away in terms of just distracted by what? Partying?
Just passively, just passively in the sense. So pulled away passively in the sense I pulled myself away by just saying yes all the time. Like you just like if there's something going on, like at what stage are you going to say, no, I've got to do something on my own to achieve a different outcome to my brothers and sisters that don't have a different goal to me, So the reality is Usain Bolt doesn't become Usain Bolt without going to running training, And so I wouldn't know, but to use that example, like it was as if I knew I could run like Usain Bolt, but I was never running training, and I wasn't working on my technique, but I knew I could run fast if I put my mind to it. But it was like I just never spread my legs often enough to really gain that satisfaction. Like I could have easily kept in the same environment and done all those things if I had either had a bit more discipline or I was just a bit more discipline, or potentially had a few more friends that had the same goals. And we used to train together as lads too. Like we'd train together and have a good, like, and for a while we'd train hard and stuff, and that was epic. But I suppose, that cognitive dissonance that I brought up before, I was like, I saw myself as capable of surfing 20-foot waves on a regular basis. And I wanted to go, like I booked a trip to Hawaii, bro, and I was so unrealistic with myself that I never went. And I just booked my trip, I booked my tickets, but I didn't save enough money, and I was kind of just played the she'll be right card until the holiday came, and I was like, oh shit, I can't go on my holiday to Hawaii. And I like broke my own heart a little bit because I just chosen, and it's such a funny thing. In a lot of ways, bro, it's kind of like where we're at now, like where are we at now with a species? It's kind of like I've like, it's not too far away, I think, from me booking my holiday to Hawaii, and a big part of me looking forward to going to Hawaii, but me not actually doing any not as much training and preparation, financial and physical preparation. I couldn't go on my trip, like that. I was fooling myself, I was completely fooling myself to the point where it would only be in the last week or so that I realized I wasn't going on my trip, and it was like, it's really funny, like I got a refund on my ticket. It was not the end of the world, like.
Well, hang on. So why did you cancel it? Because you just had the realization that you weren't ready.
Nah, I didn't.
So
it was mostly financial. Like literally, it's just like bad financial planning 101. It's pretty funny, but there's other things. Like, I obviously wasn't ready for that trip, and back in the day would cut me up. Like there was another trip, bro, where all my buddies were going to Indo. And that was one of the first times I experienced a panic attack, like I haven't had many panic attacks in my life at all, maybe only like 2 or 3 or something. And, but this first time is I'm surfing my local beach with my buddies. It's 2 foot. We're having a good time. Half my friends are already over in Indo. And then my other good couple buddies are going to join them. Literally my whole crew's in Indo. And they're all getting ready for the fucking time of their lives, and I did not save enough money to go onto that holiday. And I'm living the life similar to what everybody else is living, and kind of like they're all getting away with it, but I'm not, like, and it's like, but it's not that's just me being the victim. But because the truth is that regardless of what the real reason of them being able to go and me not, the truth is that I was not being honest with myself and honest with my finances and honest with, you know, like just not being transparent with myself. I was fooling myself to think that, oh, it would be all good and I could just go on this holiday. But in reality, and then when all my friends went, and then I was thinking, and when this one come around, I was like, oh, it's all good, you know, like they'll go and I'll cruise and it'll be all good. But then when everyone left and I was there and I was just like breathing, I was like, what the hell have I done? I've just missed out on I've just traded eating and drinking and a few fun party drugs or whatever for a trip to Indo with my best mates. And I was rattled, you know, and just that in that moment. And I came to terms with that. Like I you know, this swimming, tree climbing, like whatever, you can just do a lot of things to get you out of the head. But I remember that one time just being like, fuck, I've cooked it, you know, like I've fully, what have I done? I'm like, oh my, because I'd been to Indo, I know how fun Indo is, and I was like, they're looking down the barrel of like, you know, a month of just barrels and, you know, all sorts of beautiful experiences, magic mushies and untapped fun and potential riding around on scooters with your buddies and bintangs and all the rest of it, sampornas, whatever you want. But then, and I'd given that away just to kind of keep up with them on a Monday to Friday. And then on top of that, I suppose, whatever it was, like I wasn't keeping up with them in the sense of like, I wasn't saving my pennies, but they had managed to save theirs, you know? So it was like, anyway, that was a bit of a wake-up call for me that, you know, just to maybe be a bit
So is that where you go into like guilt, shame, remorse? Did you go into that?
Like maybe a little bit there. My guilt, shame, remorse, bro, is more in an everyday situation. Like, so I can take me on a different day, and maybe it's the meditating or whatever, but I can have very different reactions to the same actions depending on my mental state, you know. And so one day I'm having a party with the boys, and then it like the guilt and shame came from more of my everyday lifestyle, you know. It's like, it's everyday smoking, drinking and eating. Why am I doing this? Am I doing this to build my energy, or am I doing this to pleasure myself, you know? And
was it building your energy?
Mostly pleasuring myself, I'd say, bro. I was always doing things to build my energy, you know, and I'm probably, to be honest, I'm probably a bit harder on myself than most people would be. I think we all generally are like our own worst critics, you know what I mean, like that. But no, when I sometimes it would be it's obviously a big mix of both, because I'm still here. I couldn't have been too depletive of my energies, but that was the thing. That was the thing. It was either, and often it would be like a day-to-day relationship with myself, where like every day something that's really cool and something that's nice is I've always been able to be a new human in the morning, you know, and have another go in the morning, and so like is
that a mindset you take?
Yeah, I suppose it is. I think it's something that's fairly natural. Like, I think that is something that is there, and like, it's interesting too, you know, like talking about like mental health and talking about, you know, like people's dispositions, like I don't know if you would call it bipolar or bi-personality disorder or something, but I am very much like a light or dark human, you know, and my decisions are very much usually based on either like kind of like the despair of darkness or the hope of light, you know. And so
wow.
And so it's like yeah, it's interesting, like the guilt and shame that comes from for me it was like just not being the best version of myself, you know. And
there you go. So you feel like you're wasting your potential or not living your purpose.
Yeah, that's it, eh? And I suppose the liberating time for me this guilt and shame complex is when, well, like to be honest, the real liberating time is I used to talk so negatively to myself because I used to believe that anything was possible, you know. So I used to believe that if we really pulled our shit together, we could really impact this world really positively and help mitigate a lot of suffering and help do a lot of good things. And so paradoxically, when I'm not making good decisions and stuff like that, I just become my own worst enemy. I just tear shreds off myself, and all the problems of the world then I would reflect onto myself and be like, you're as bad as you know, Hitler in some respects, because if you, and it might sound crazy, but I really would just have so much loathing for myself, because I just think if you can't be a good example with all that you've got, well then you know, like then what are you, you know, like you know. And I just think if you can't be the one to share love, then you're not sharing truth, you're just sharing shit, you know. And it's like but now and that, I suppose, came from a real, like, you're either like loving or you're not, you know. And I kind of believe, and it's really interesting. Like, I haven't actually had an in-depth learning of the energy systems of the body and all of that, but I have come to an awareness that your heart can either be open or closed, you know. And I think in some respects, perhaps that's what I was intuitively feeling, is either I'm doing things out of my heart for the right reasons, or I'm not, and I'm closing my heart and I'm hardening my heart, so to speak, from these energies and from myself, and just like what I'm willing to give and receive. And so in some respects, I think it is kind of relevant that we can, like, switch on or switch off, like, energetically almost, but then in other respects, and now what I feel to be like more of a deeper kind of truth, is that nothing is ever still, nothing is stagnant. Like, it's always moving, it's always flowing, it's always changing. So if I'm not making the most loving decision, then it's like, it doesn't make me a terrible human. It doesn't make me, you know, a rapist or a murderer. It just makes me somebody that's not choosing to cultivate or to conduct as much energy, you know, with certain decisions and certain feelings. And so when I realized that the guilt and shame that I was experiencing was taking away, I experienced it for enough years to realize that I was going to be a sack of shit if I just kept living like that, you know, like that I might never reach anything. And it got to the point where I was just like, I don't even care about surfing Jaws, and I don't care about getting big barrels at Mexico, which I'd watched, you know, so many videos in Hornsby, eyes glued to the TV, training and frothing out on these big tubes all around the world and dreaming of going there and getting barreled. But if achieving my dreams and goals meant that part of that was being really nasty to myself and being really hard on myself when I wasn't achieving them, I let them all go. Hey, I was like, it's all too heavy. It's all too heavy to keep putting on myself, you know. And so, I just took the weight of expectation off my shoulders, and I just decided that I would just live with a lot less expectations of myself, and I would just start living rather than just constantly judging myself, you know. And that was really liberating.
Amazing,
that was really liberating, bro. And then on top of that, something that was really powerful, like in those decisions and in that time for me, is I always wanted to go for like a big ocean swim, and so I went ocean swimming, and I found my peace there. You know, like a big part of this guilt and shame is like I'm filled with desire. You know, like like I've kind of got a destructive. It's almost. It's just like I've got an overindulgent tendency, you know, to overindulge.
All or nothing.
Yeah, and definitely, and then even like all or nothing, but like I suppose too, just like a real attachment to pleasure would be like quite honest to say is like I love eating. Like I used to have bad bulimia problems, you know, and it was mix it in with the guilt and shame, and then you got a bit of sugar, which is already a highly addictive substance, and there you go, you got bulimia. You know, if you got guilt and shame, or you got low self-worth, then the next minute you're like, you know, eating yourself till you're sick and vomiting behind the bushes and wishing you weren't alive because you feel like a dog, you know. And in some respects, like I feel like our ability to love and to accept is what differentiates us from animals, you know. And it's like without that love and acceptance that comes from the heart and comes from that place of empathy, and then it's like, and with that you start to transcend, you know, you start to transcend your desire, you start to transcend your guilt and shame, and you get to a point where you make a stand and you say, you know, I'm not going to be negative, I'm not going to be tearing shreds off myself for my whole life, because it's not getting me anywhere, you know, and it's weighing me down.
Do you think it's that simple? Just making the decision, like, I'm not going to be sad anymore, or I'm not going to be negative anymore.
It is that simple, but I suppose like decisions the more emotionally charged a decision is, the more power it has, and so I'd worn myself down for years being negative, and like I said, I was very positive throughout it all too. Like my friends, like, you know, if a lot of the people in my life, like had known I was ready to drive into a tree or paddle out to sea on a real strong westerly, and then never see anyone again, just so that in my mind, so that I wasn't lying to the world about why we're here, you know, and like and like the deeper truths of like who we are. Like I felt like if I can't be true to myself, well then I'm almost like throwing everyone off from being true to themselves. Like it'd be better I wasn't here, because then I at least wouldn't be like fooling everyone, you know, as I was fooling myself. And that's the way that my brain worked, you know, and it was very all or nothing, you know, and for all the good that Christianity does, it probably does a fair bit of harm too, in the sense that this idea of eternal heaven or eternal hell, or this idea of sin, you know, which is really like an archer missing the mark if you look up the real word for sin. And so, but the idea, like, pros and cons, you know, and like light and dark and all that, and so that's why I think, I think the Christian religion can do a lot of harm if you don't have enlightened teachers, you know. And I feel like there's too many. I feel like the Christian religion and the Bible and all of that, if you can grasp the heart of it, it's the best teachings ever, you know, and so good, and so guiding, and so supportive, and so eye-opening. But that to me, like I had to read the Bible again from a bit more of a Hindu perspective to get even more out of it, you know. And
what do you mean from a Hindu perspective?
well, the Hindu, when I was 21, I went traveling through Central and South America with my best buddy, and at the time we thought that we were just gonna go and we're gonna party, and you know, we're gonna get into a bit of mischief and have a lot of fun and do whatever we wanted along the way. But me and Tom, he's the youngest of 7, and we both decided pretty early in on that trip that we were there to go on a journey, you know. We were there to go to get to know ourselves and to try to understand why we were here, type thing, as opposed to just not like, as opposed to being blind to those questions, really just like making that the priority of our trip. this book came across our path, and it was called the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And so that opened me up to this new, like this kind of like Hindu philosophy, and they talk about the wisdom of oneness in that, and they're under the kind of the pretext that all creation is one, and there's holiness in and many different gods and all that, but the wisdom of oneness, you know, and so that when you read the kind of, so you got the Godhead, you know, God the Father, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and it's like, and they're all God, you know, and that is for some Christians very confusing, and that you can have God the Father, who you can't see, God the Son, who you can see, and the Holy Spirit, which is like pervading everything, or perhaps just where it's welcome, but pervading everything from my understanding, and it's like. And then you've got this concept of oneness. So, and then from the Hindus, and then so to me, I kind of, one reason why I did not like, one reason why I pretty much stopped going to church was I didn't believe that God was sending people to hell for eternity. I just refused to believe that, you know, like it doesn't sit right in my heart. There was no doubt in my mind that God is good. Like, you know, with the waves and the beautiful planet and good family and all that, there's no doubt that God is good, but then there's also, like, you know, this question of like certain things didn't ring true to me, and certain things that were being preached and the way that they were being talked about, they didn't resonate with me on a deeper level, and so I just kind of decided to find my own truth, find my own way, and I came back to it, you know, because when it helped me to learn about yoga and learn about other life lessons. It helped me to realize that they were actually all saying the same thing, and it was more about the person who was interpreting things, confusing people, as opposed to the actual core messages being different. You know, that's the way it felt to me. Hey.
Yeah, man. So interesting, Lachie. It's so interesting. You know, I'm just sort of sitting here and I'm really taking in what you're saying, and I just see a really intuitive person, someone that's very intuitive with themselves, and someone that's chosen to listen to that intuition. And I think when you strip everything back, I think people that choose to listen to that intuitive sense and follow that and act on it, it seems like there's a common theme of it's a sort of like a guide to fulfillment and peace in this world. That's just my observation. So, and I love that about you, bro.
Thanks, legend. Mad doggy.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, man, how you feeling, dude?
I'm feeling good, bro. I mean, yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, one thing I'll go on to say about that, like, I don't know how many of other people that you've talked to is like, I suppose one massive life-changing moment for me was when I was I was driving, and to cut a long story short, I was driving and I'd fallen asleep at the wheel on a nice, sleepy, sunny Sunday, and I woke up to the sound of sticks, and I was in my parents' Tarago, and I was going 80 kilometres an hour, and I woke up, must have only been like 3 to 5 meters before a tree, you know, type thing, and then possibly a little bit more, but like it was so critical anyway, and I just reefed the wheel as hard as I could, and then as I reefed it, then next minute the car's just going completely sideways, like kind of miraculous it didn't roll, and then I reefed it back the other way, and then I had this little voice of reason kind of just saying, don't overcorrect, you know. And it came good, and I didn't overcorrect, and that was really nice, that voice of reason. Like we've all played the car games, you know, like a few little, we've all been in the simulators. So, but that moment was really powerful, and I've actually to my shame. And I definitely don't encourage any of the listeners to fall asleep at the wheel to kind of get those reassurances. But I knew that I was meant to be alive, you know, and that to me was like, okay, so I'm here and I'm meant to be alive. So obvious, like to me, it was like, so it's important to live, and it's important to live without regrets in some respect. Hey.
Yeah. See, there you go again. You know, you're seeking the lessons in every experience. That's what I see in you. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, Shane.
So intriguing. But you survived. You survived. You're meant to be here.
Live to fall asleep at the wheel another day. No,
it's funny. I've had similar experiences.
Yep.
The first time I had that realization, I was actually in Sydney. Long story. Almost got hit by a car. Almost got hit by 2 cars on my skateboard. I was bombing this big steep hill in Rose Bay of all places. Cut long story short, car pulled out in front of me. I dodged it. Got the death wobbles really bad. Ate shit, and then in front of oncoming traffic. And I remember like I had a concussion and stuff, but I remember the next day just going like, oh my God, I survived it. And then I was having like nightmares about it. So I'd wake up going, you know, like the car ran me over or something like that. And I had that moment of like, oh man, like things could have changed just like that. I'm not going to lose any more breaths in this life. I'm going to try and make the most of every breath that I have. And, yeah, but don't get me wrong, I've gone through periods where I haven't had that mindset, but it's a very timely reminder of how quickly the switch can flick. What were you going to say?
Point of clarity type thing.
Point of clarity, man, 100%. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So what do you reckon, man? You feel like you want to start winding it up?
Yeah. Maybe let's touch on. I'd love to just touch on just like what's going on with the world around us, and I don't know how. Yeah, so it's like I like even the way that you're saying like learning and stuff. So it's like.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
What are you learning? What have you learned over the last year and a half in this life and this world that we live in, based on the current situation with the pandemic?
Yeah.
Is that too big a question?
Bro, that's good. That's good.
Because I want to preface it. Sorry, Lachie, to cut you off, but I want to preface it with like, I know that discussing, the pandemic and COVID can be very polarizing, and I have avoided it a lot. However, I do believe people have the right to share their lived experience with it. And that doesn't mean that someone's opinionated, but they can say, well, this has been my experience with it. And I acknowledge that it can be vastly different for everybody. So I'd like to know, what's your lived experience been like with it, and how are you feeling?
Yeah, bro. Well, yeah, it's been good. Like, first of all, it's been really, really really kind with us, COVID and our living situations. Like, it's been super. We've been very fortunate, not to have too much disturbance and be able to do what we wanted. When it first hit, we were over in New Zealand and on a working holiday, and then we're in this beautiful little small town called Owakuni, and we were helping a friend do some renovations on a like kind of like an investment property. But yeah, then we came back and I've learnt a lot, bro. I've learnt a lot, and I suppose it's given me a lot of time to reflect on where I'm at and then on where society's at and where the planet's at. And I think like it's funny, like it's funny that COVID at the moment is our biggest kind of point of conversation, or like it's almost like the elephant. It's funny, eh? Like, I would almost describe as COVID as the elephant that they've put in the room, but it's not the elephant that has always been in the room. It's like all of a sudden there's 2 freaking elephants in the room, but the only reason why one of them's in there is because of like, too much media coverage. But the other elephant, which is, in my opinion, like has given birth to this baby COVID elephant. It's like it really is, and what I'm learning now, and what like if there's a message to be shared, it's that like life and our future depends on us being participants of life and participants of creating our future, and it's like it's really interesting, through all this, and there's a lot of different things going on. I've heard a lot of different people talking, but one guy, something that really struck a chord with me, and something that's a theme that's been coming up throughout my whole life, is these two mindsets that we can adopt. And it's either a mindset of slavery or a mindset of redemptive thinking, and I think that throughout my depression and throughout these times, in a lot of ways, you are enslaved to your mind, because you're not controlling it, and you're not steering that ship. You're not able to. Nobody really wants to be depressed, like nobody's goal is to continue being depressed, but so it's obvious that it's almost out of our control. It's like we have given the control of our mind either over to our mind, or potentially over to a society, and we've given it to experts and professionals. We've given it potentially our health. We've given the control of our health potentially to experts and professionals, as opposed to taking it on as a personal responsibility, and I'm not to say that experts and professionals can't help you, accepting help and being part of a community is one of the most integral parts of being a human being, to be living and cooperating with other humans, but in the sense of personal responsibility to keep ourselves fit and healthy, to keep ourselves filled with joy and hope and love. It's like, are we taking that as a personal responsibility, or are we being limited by what's available in our society, and it's interesting, like at certain times everything's going to become differently available and all of that, but one thing that I'm like really learning now more than ever is the need to integrate, and one thing that this is taught, because I've been really lucky, bro. I've been really lucky because my whole life, the only really, I mean, I've said my life goals is to experience joy and to share joy. That's the reason really why I'm alive. It's what the highlights of my life have been joyous, and all the meaningful times have been filled with joy, or to some degree, or if they're filled with sorrow, it's because they were that was preceded by joy type thing, and so like. Yeah, in this time, it's like never been more relevant to keep pushing towards what I've been pushing towards for my whole life, and that's to live in harmony, with the ocean, and to live in harmony with yourself, and because what is a big tube of water, like in the ocean, it's energy, it's wind, it comes from the sun, it moves across the ocean, it's affected by the moon. And what are we eating? We're eating food and water every day, we're eating like we could be eating parts of the water that is spit out of barrels over us, that's the same raindrops that are falling into our food, and it's so integrated, the world that we live in, it's so connected. You cannot separate anything, and you really can't, and it's really interesting how we as humans have really lost touch, with indigenous culture, with indigenous practices, and with a true integration into the land and into ourselves, and just like the ability to be honest with that level of integration is our ability to change that situation, you know. And so like the first step to overcoming a problem is realizing that we've got a problem, you know. And it's like, for me, it took a while, you know, and now in my own life, like I kind of adopt like the way that I could see the world changing. Bob Marley says there's a lot to be done, so let's do it a little by little, you know. And it's like, I know that I've been on some big hikes in my life, and on a big journey, you don't want to take too big a step because you're going to pull your muscles. If you're carrying a heavy pack, you want to take little by little steps, you know. And a lot of times where you know, like life's compared to be a marathon and life's this or that. But yeah, and so the last year and a half, bro, it's just been, I've always been trying to learn how to get more barreled. Like, it's my passion, it makes me most happy. And that naturally, so if you want to talk about that briefly, like to whatever extent there is, like I'm not a physicist or anything like that, you know, but I've got a relative understanding of energy, and I've got a relative understanding of what like you said, what's working and what's not. And to my understanding of the ocean and everything like that, it's as simple as, well, here's a massive lump of energy. How compatible am I with that energy, you know? And it's very humbling when you want something but you're not compatible with it. It hurts almost. It hurts because you're like, oh, I really wanted that, you know. But the truth is, we were not ready for that, you know. And that's why it didn't happen. And then, you know, like I've gotten some beautiful waves before, and I haven't come out of some barrels in these beautiful waves, and that's all right, because it was a gift to be inside it, and coming out, I wasn't ready for it, you know. And so it's like, and so the last year and a half for me, bro, it's like I really have been trying to integrate further into life, and what does integration look like? It looks like, to me, it's about energy movement. It's about energy flow. It's about creating more energy than you're destroying. It's about being conscious of the cycles of energy, you know, of the growth of plants, of the growth of the forest, and then so when we talk about integrating, it's like nature's really good at providing an abundance, you know, and if we can align ourselves with the natural laws, and we can have even a small understanding of how nature works, we can give and take from nature, so that there's always going to be an abundance. And then in the last year and a half, you know, like now, like I talk about this elephant in the room, and to me, the true elephant in the room is not like a global pandemic that kills less people than hunger every day, you know, or like it's not to me, the true pandemic it's a pandemic of the heart and the head, you know. It's a pandemic of oneness or separateness. It's like, and it's like, are we integrated as a collective, not just species, but organism, like a planetary organism that is constantly feeding and nourishing itself, and therefore creating an abundance to feed and nourish, you know, all of the life forms on this planet? Or are we potentially taking in a way, and like me when I was younger, are we taking in a way that's fooling ourselves? Are we taking in a way that's good right now, but in a few years is going to leave us with a lot less options and with a lot less to offer the next generation and the next generation? And it's like, are we? And that's the real elephant. It's not like, you know, it's not about. It's not.
It's just been highlighted right now, hasn't it?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, man. And it's sad, you know, and to be honest, bro, it's part of the reason why I fell into depression to start with, you know, because I don't think that if we had a majority of the society that was just truly trying to create an abundance for the, not just for ourselves but the next generation, you know, and it's no individual's fault. It's a societal problem, and it's like and it's been, you know, like it's been indoctrinated into us from a very young age, you know, and even and from our education systems, like, you know, for like yeah, you know, the river runs deep, bro. It's been going on for as long as humanity's been alive, I think. Just like, because I like if, you know, to go one step deeper, it's just like, why are we here on the planet? You know, like, why are we here? You know, like, you talked about me, you know, doing my best to learn and to do this, and it's like, what true, like, if you ask me why we're here, it's like, it's to experience, and it's to learn, and potentially it's to grow, you know, like it's to expand what we know right now, and it's to share that, you know, and to try and make the garden a little bit more beautiful, and it's to and I really think that we can do it all, but I think that we might not be able to do it all at once, you know, and so just like, yeah, you know, as far as like what's going on in the world today and everything like that, it really comes down to how we view ourselves and how we view the planet that we're living on, and what legacy are we leaving? You know, like, do we want to hand something over that we can be proud of? Like, one way I've tried to live my life, and I'll continue to try to live my life because it makes a lot of sense to me, you know, and it's like, how do you know? Like, if you don't know how to follow your heart, this would be my advice, you know, like, if you're like, I don't know what my heart's telling me, and that's fine. If you don't know what your heart's telling you, then this is a little exercise I like to play with myself, you know, when I've got a big decision to make, or something's going on and you don't know quite what to do. Imagine yourself as a dying old person, and you're on your deathbed, and you don't have any more life to live, any more wild adventures, and you're literally you're breathing your last breaths, you know, and you're sharing that with yourself. Now what advice would you give to yourself? Because that advice that you on your deathbed will give to yourself, I truly believe, is the most valuable advice that anyone can give to you. Because that's the advice of your heart. That's the advice of why you came to live. And if you can really just tap into that and be like, what would I say to myself if I was about to die, you know, in regard to this matter, in the regard to how should I speak to somebody? How should I surf? How should I prepare for this or that? Or how do I go about my business? How do I choose what job I want to be involved in? How do I do any of these things that matter a lot, you know? It's like, it's ask that old person, you know, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, give it a go. Like, don't worry about your head. Do what your heart wants, you know, and satisfy your deepest desires, you know, and don't worry about going with the flow. That's not going to give you any peace when you're on your deathbed. Do what you know you needed to do, because that's the only thing that's going to give you peace, you know, because if you don't do it, you'll never know. And that might be all right too. If you can make your peace with that, well, then you're probably enlightened if you can make your peace with on that deathbed, you know, like that you want to have peace, you know, and you want to know that you did everything that you thought you could do to make a difference, or to just simply honor your own life, you know. But yeah.
Yes, brother.
Yeah, the team.
Yes, brother.
It's good times,
yes.
Sam. Yeah,
it's
doggy.
really, it's simple, but it's true. And when you do speak to old people and you really listen to them, most of them will say what you're saying. Now, I often have this mindset, as morbid as it sounds. I think, what would they say about me at my funeral? Now, because I've had to attend a number of funerals over the years, one theme keeps coming up when I go to a funeral, and that is, it's very rare you hear people discuss the money that person made, or the possessions that person had, or the the hours that they worked in their job. You don't hear that very often. Constantly, you always hear in the eulogy, so-and-so loved to go fishing, so-and-so loved to spend time with their family, so-and-so was a passionate golfer, whatever it is. You know, and that's what always comes out. They talk about the person's passions and interests and their relationships with other people.
Totally, yeah.
And that just keeps coming up. Like, and that's like, it's that simple to me. You know, and again, it taps back into, you know, this whole insecurity we have around not having, you know, adequate shelter and food and possessions. And so we think that we have to keep staying in these jobs and earning money a certain way to maintain these things. And I know it's cliche and it's talked about a lot, but it just keeps coming up time and time again. So
yeah, that's epic.
Anyway.
And I love that, bro. Nah, and I love
what you're saying too.
Yeah, that's it, bro. I love the just like that universal acceptance in such a situation that those are the only things that matter. You know, whereas talk to a high school kid when he's finishing high school, and are they talking about what you're passionate about, and they talking about what matters to you, or are they just talking about safety and security? You know, and they talk to a young kid at school, you know, and it's like at what point do our society's values change to start nourishing the actual human being that came here to planet Earth to live and to love and to experience? You know, like why? You know, societally, can we not make that the highest value? And it's like, especially when we are in a material abundance, you know, and the result is too, you know, like the truth is that the more tapped in to what you were just talking about, which is the joy of living and the joy of, you know, living fully and integrated, like the more that you can honor that, well, the more rich your life is going to be, you know, and it's like it's gonna, and the more the more that you're going to have to give the future generations, the more that you're going to be. One thing I will just quickly mention too is like, I really feel like life is a journey, you know, and that when you're heading in the right direction, that your bag's getting lighter. You know, and when you're heading in the wrong direction, the weight gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and it. I've never
heard that.
Yeah, and
I've never heard that.
Yeah, right on, bro. And it's a super simple analogy for me that makes sense because I know in my own heart that's how it's been, and I think that what would be really wise, you know, to be looking at as a society, and if we can see ourselves in our children and we can see ourselves in our grandchildren, it's like, are we collectively as a human species and even, you know, as a you know, planetary organism, it's like, are we making this journey harder for ourselves or are we making it easier for ourselves? You know, and it's just like, at what point, if we are taking too many resources and we are living in an overabundance of in an unsustainably overabundant material way, like it all comes down to that, you know, and it's that question like of what are we giving, how much energy are we giving, and how much energy are we taking, and if we're happy to be taking all this energy that's coming at us in the form of packeted food and white goods and new cars and driving and all this, and I have a new car and I drive a lot, you know, I live down south, but these are all things that I'm really trying to be honest with myself and trying not to fool myself, because when I look at my nephews and my nieces, I want to know that I was a part of creating a better world for them rather than a part of taking away opportunities from them, you know, and so I think it's a really good time, you know, with all these lockdowns and all these crazy times to really be asking ourselves, what kind of legacy are we leaving for our future generations, and can we get together and can we collaborate better to build something more beautiful than what we're doing, and can we step outside of our 9 to 5 and can we dig a bit deeper on the weekends or in the afternoons to plant veggie gardens or to compost and to do things that really matter and that will really all add up. Like, you know, like one of the beautiful things I've heard is like if only every human on the planet knew that, and a lot of humans do, like yourself and a lot of brothers and sisters, like if we all knew that the planet would be changed by millions of tiny, small good deeds, then no one would hesitate to start doing them, you know. But it's only because this story that we're being fed is not a story of empowerment. It's not a story of wonder. It's not a story of abundance. It's a story of us constantly being dependent on something that we're given, or it's been dependent on the systems that are provided for us. But like, I mean, I don't know, like it's just like if we can look at our resources and if we can look at our cultural knowledge and we can look at our, you know, all the things that have been on the planet in the last 100 years, and then how much cultural knowledge do we have now? How are our resources looking now? How are these really valuable, tangible life skills of preserving foods, of hunting and gathering, and these really tangible and just like the storytelling and enjoyable and playful skills and singing and dancing and the liberation of the human spirit? It's just like what are we leaving for ourselves? If we can be honest with ourselves and be like, all right, well, and obviously it's dynamic, it's always changing, but just collectively as a society, it's like and then collectively as a society, and then most relevantly as an individual, it's like am I giving more than am I taking more than I'm giving? And that's
what it comes down to.
That's it, eh? That's it. Yeah, it does, bro. 100.
Sorry to cut you off, but I'm sorry, but I really believe that's what it comes down to.
It is that simple, bro. But the problem, like, it is that simple, but the kind of the disillusion that we're in is that it's society's fault, and that we all forget that we're a part of society, and that we all forget that we're going along with this story that is not benefiting our great grandchildren. It's not benefiting our children. So why are we going along with something that is only benefiting us, you know? And it's like, at what point are we going to start to change that so that we can all be more fulfilled? Because you might be like, don't get me wrong, like you could be living like there's a hole inside each one of us and it's only filled with love, you know? And it's like, it doesn't matter what you've got, because you know, in your deepest, like we are all connected. So it's like if you're sitting in your mansion with your thousands of dollars and you're living this life, you might be able to fool yourself, you know, that you're going to be proud of yourself on your deathbed. But there's a high chance that you're feeling a big underline of discontent and a big underline of something's missing. And what that is real human connection, real satisfaction from doing things with your hand, from being involved in the participatory experience of living, you know, and of being in communal. And it's like I really feel like we've sold something extremely precious, and as a result we bought something cheap, you know, like I love salvaging I love salvaging wood, and the simplest experience, like example I can give to you right now is like all around Australia and all around the world, based on the efficiency of humans and all that's happened, it's like we cannot afford, or it is perceived that we cannot afford to recycle because we can't. Big companies can't make enough money off recycling, so we've tricked ourselves into throwing beautiful, valuable hardwood in the bin and replacing it with cheap, shitty pine. And what's that going to do to our children or our grandchildren? All that energy wasted is going to leave them with less. And so we got to wake up and start to change a little bit, hey, and just be honest with ourselves. Every little decision makes a big difference. Hey, has a big flow-on effect.
100%, man. And I just think too, it's a hack. It's a life hack to actually in happiness. Like, and sorry, we'll start to wind it up here, but like being of service to others and the community and to the greater good fundamentally breeds fulfillment, contentment, and ultimately happiness.
Yeah.
So that's the paradox in it all. So when you give of yourself, you're actually giving to your soul, and you're making yourself feel better.
Yeah.
And so I see all these really unhappy people, and who are so tied up in their head and what's going on in their world. And the best way to cure that is to get out of yourself and put someone else in front of you and someone else ahead of you.
100, bro.
And there we go. It's like this life hack.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a selfish. It's like
good.
Paradoxically selfish.
Yeah.
100, but what a beautiful way to be selfish.
Yeah,
eh?
yeah. There's no better way.
I love it.
Energy flow, bro. Just letting that energy flow and not being stagnant. Hey, in our thoughts or in our generosity and in our time and in our energy.
Yes, brother.
Good stuff, Shan. You legend.
Well, listen, man. It's been epic, and it's just such a profound pleasure to just hear you speak from the heart, and it's like I can just see it. Just whatever's coming out of you is coming out of you. And that's what I love about this, is that I love to see someone in that space where it's just flowing through them. And I believe that flows from somewhere else. And what comes out how it's meant to come out. And I could see that in you today. You were just in your element and in your zone. And thank you for being so willing to make yourself vulnerable, man. So that's so impressive, brother.
Yeah, thanks, Shan. Yeah, right back at you, bro. You big-hearted brother, you legend. So good, so good, dude. Yeah, it's nice to be able to have a chat.
Yeah, man. Now listen, man. Like I said, I actually ask all guests to come to the podcast with a cause or a philosophy or something they want to support or advocate for. Could be a charity, or it could just be a philosophy on how to live. Like, could be, grow your own food or build your own things. But do you have something you want to finish on in terms of a cause or something you want to advocate for today? If you haven't got one, I can give you one.
For advocating, if you want to, I'll finish on this, I suppose. It's right now, individually and collectively, we're all telling ourselves stories, and so to be honest with ourselves, if we're not happy within ourselves, perhaps we're not telling ourselves a story that makes us happy, and if collectively, if something's wrong collectively, well then perhaps collectively we've all bought into a story that collectively is not serving us. So on a day-to-day level, and just the way that we're interrelating with ourselves most importantly, because that's the fundamental relationship with our life, is just can we tell ourselves a story that is going to benefit our lives and benefit the lives of those around us, as opposed to telling a story that's going to make us feel shit, or telling us a story that's gonna leave the future generations with less. And it really is all storytelling, eh? What you're doing now with the podcast and what life is, it's just one massive story, and the human story and the planet story will keep going. And it's just so the funny thing is, even though there's so much going on in the world, what story am I telling myself? Am I going to be happy with the story that I told myself at the end of my life? It allowed me to be fulfilled, allowed me to have depth and meaning, allowed me to pick myself up and shake off the dust when I fell down and just keep enjoying life, and it doesn't hold me back and limit me, but rather sets me free, into this redemptive life that we can all have, the life of our dreams. Can we tell ourselves a story that is empowering, and that empowers the future generations as much as, rather than this doom gloom, rather than this conveniently disconnected society that we're all conveniently being a part of, and is it no one's fault, but yeah, definitely something that I just like, yeah, that means a lot to me at the moment. Just the stories that we're telling ourselves, the stories that we're telling the planet, the nation. It's like one last thing to say on that is the story. Your story can be whatever you want it to be. Like if you're vulnerable to a virus, then that's the story you're telling yourself. If you've been put here, if you're fearfully and wonderfully made and you're here for a purpose to live, then I believe that you won't die until that purpose has been achieved, you know, or that you might, or you know, and then so it's like if you want to tell yourself a story, if you want to be vulnerable, then that's what. But the point is that we have been told a story, and at this point in our lives, now it might be a really good time to start telling us a story that makes us feel safe, makes us feel strong, makes us feel worthy, makes us feel valued, and it's just like, if that story's not coming through on the news to us, or it's not coming through on the radio, then turn it off, you know? If somebody's not speaking with if it's not making your heart happy, then turn that shit off and start telling yourself a story, or let other people tell you a story that's going to bring you up and bring you into the most, you know, like, awesome version of yourself, because if we're not careful, the story... if we're not careful, then we'll end up with us being told a story that we don't like, and we'll think to ourselves, well, how did this happen? You know, like, how do we get here? Like what happened to me, bro? Why all of a sudden am I having a panic attack when all my best buddies are going somewhere and I'm not? Because I was fooling myself, you know? And why can't I go to this beautiful trip to Hawaii and surf these Hawaiian waves that I've always dreamed of? Because I fooled myself, because I wasn't being realistic. I wasn't taking the steps that I needed to get where I wanted to go. I was just hoping that it would magically happen, you know, and that purely my desire for a better world would be able to, or my desire to surf the waves in Hawaii would get me there. No, we all need a story, and we all need like a logical kind of plan and to get there, you know. And it's like,
and like, get honest.
Get honest, hey. So it's like, you're not going to be able to fool that dying person on that deathbed, so you may as well not fool yourself now, you know. Like, you're going to tell yourself sooner or later, so you may as well just try to tell yourself earlier, hey. But yeah, I mean, I love Waves for Water, hey.
Yeah,
Waves for Water, but
amazing. Okay, we can put that. Yeah. We can put that charity in there.
I've always been.
But I also think I want to advocate for changing your inner narrative.
Yeah, big time. That's what I'm saying, bro. 100. The inner narrative, the personal narrative, and the communal narrative.
Like, amazing, dude. So I'll put a link to Waves for Water in this episode's show notes. So if you scroll down, you'll find a link. You can go to Waves to Water, donate, participate, volunteer, do what you need to do. But in the meantime, change your inner narrative, because it's like that philosophy. Your thoughts become your words become your actions, your actions become your behaviours, and your behaviours become who you are. So it's, I mean, I forget who said that. I think it was Gandhi, you know. It's beautiful, nice, man. Now you can find this episode on a variety of different platforms other than the one you're listening to right now, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Chartable.com, Overcast, and Castbox. And whatever platform you like to listen on, it always helps me if you subscribe and leave a review, and it keeps me going so I can continue to speak to legends every week, like Mr. Lachie Rombouts.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.
One more thing, man. Our friends at Indosol have got a gift for you. So they'll be sending you some flip-flops or slides made from repurposed motor vehicle tyres.
That's
you know, they're really trying to create that circular economy.
So good, bro.
They're fundamentally trying to reduce the disposal or delay the disposal of motor vehicle tyres going into landfill or being burnt and things like that, because there's an overabundance of that form of waste in our world. So thank you, Indosol. So, Lachie, I'll get you to stay on the line. I'll get your shoe size and postal details. But, brother, I love you.
So epic. Yeah, Shan. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Have an epic day.